Let me start with an observation. The left has been much more successful in influencing the AHA, the MLA, and a host of other professional organizations than it has been amongst the voters. If I asked, which I won't, if I asked, which I won't, 99% of you would say you support higher taxes and more funding for education and perhaps even a new WPA. Unfortunately, this is not the case for 99% of the voters. That 50% of the voters that sometimes says it would support higher taxes for higher education or lower education or just education in general, when presented with a specific initiative to raise taxes, usually, as we know, votes it down. I want, therefore, to talk about what it is the AHA can do by beginning by talking about what the AHA actually has done. I hope this won't be seen as kind of a pep talk for the current administration of the AHA, but I think it's important to remember some of the things that have happened in the past, because major changes have happened to bring the group of people that is sitting in this room to this room. In the 1960s, I would remind you, and some of you still remember it as I do, people, that is, white men, got jobs via phone calls between senior white male professors. One of the things the AHA did, thanks to the pressure first of women historians and also of minority historians, was to play a key role in opening up the job market. I don't mean by giving jobs to women and minorities, I mean by demanding that there be advertisements for jobs about where they were, that there be applications for jobs, that there be interviews for jobs, now a burden for many of us, and that there be reports by hiring committees about who they considered and why they actually picked the person they did. This was a major oceanic change in the nature of the AHA, and it was brought about in part from within the AHA and in part from pressure from without. Since then, a variety of other very important issues have also come to the fore, and I want to mention them briefly. One of them, I think, is perhaps still the most important question for the future, and that is the problem of adjuncts, or rather the reality of adjuncts, because I don't think we should just view it as a problem, but a reality, and incorporating them, as John has talked about with public history, more fully into the AHA as an organization and to our experience as historians. Second major issue that has been considered and on which some progress has been made, graduate students. I was on the task force on graduate education and produced a massive report. You may think no one ever read it because it was long and detailed, but at least directors of graduate studies probably read it because they were interviewed for it and surveyed for it. And I think it has had an impact in making departments think about the nature of their graduate education. And the AHA has explicitly pushed for similar websites from all departments about graduate education. I don't think this has been fully achieved, but it's a great idea so that prospective students can compare what goes on in different departments instead of entering into a kind of black box by contract ahead of time. Third major area, and that is the one that John just talked about, and public history. And here I totally support what Anthony Grafton and Jim Grossman said in their pieces and perspectives on the need to pay more attention to public history within graduate education, and as John mentioned, to pay much more attention to public historians in whichever guise they might be found as an important active part of the historical profession. Now, in this regard, I think one of the most important things that the AHA can do is exactly what it is doing right at this very second, which is, well, perhaps not what we're doing at this very second, but we'll do in about 3 minutes, have discussion about the issues that face us, that are common issues for us, that we have shared reasons to think about. One of the things that the AHA does that I think is so important in this regard, besides having an annual meeting, is precisely what brought this panel together, and that is Perspectives, the newsletter of the American Historical Association, which I think has emerged increasingly under Sudhir's leadership and with the help of Rob Townsend as a major forum for the discussion of the future of the profession. I cannot say enough about how important it has been in encouraging discussion of new teaching techniques, of the issues that graduate students face, of spousal hiring. The list of issues is almost endless, and I think it's been extremely important to have this more informal vehicle for discussion rather than just the American Historical Review, as great as it is, largely devoted to the production and publication of important research articles. Now, this is how we find out about what other people are doing besides coming to the meeting. Rob Townsend's reports in particular need to be underlined for their significance. We have the best information, I would argue, of any professional organization in this country. Frankly, in large measure thanks to his efforts and those of his predecessors. He has a PhD in history. Sudhir has a PhD in history. These are perfect examples of public historians who do things for us that are of immeasurable importance. When I wrote a piece on the humanities in general, I was shocked to find how good our pieces were on women in the profession, minorities in the profession, age groups in the profession, field specializations in the profession. Virtually no one else has the kind of detailed information that we have, and that is thanks to the staff of the AHA, and in particular of Perspectives. I want to talk briefly about the future. In addition to continuing to worry about these issues, which I think are very important, there are some new ones that I think are emerging on the horizon. Some of them were already discussed this morning, and forgive me if this particular bee in my bonnet has already been flying about the room, and that is the subject of online courses. I think this is something we need to spend time thinking about as a professional organization. Online lecturing is already becoming a reality. In some cases it's a necessity, other cases it's a money-raising venture. It raises serious issues about the future of classroom teaching. It has perspectives, it has good things about it, and it has problems that we need to be thinking about. This is the kind of place where we can think about those issues. There are very few other places where we can think about those issues. And then finally, I think what the current crisis has shown is that we need to do a much better job. I'm hardly the first to harp on this issue. We must do a much better job explaining why history matters. Not just to the public, not just to legislators, in some cases to our own students, sometimes even to our own graduate students, because in the rush towards professionalization, sometimes why it's fun, exciting, important, and intellectually rewarding gets dropped off along the way. We need to work on all of that, and we need to think together about how to do that. Not just how it's of clear relevance to current policy debates. That just makes me think of Newt Gingrich being paid as a consultant in history to Ginny May. But rather, more generally, how this is a question that we can address, not as an organization, but each one of us, every day, in all the possible ways that we can do this, to create a better situation in the future. It's not a situation just for historians, it's not a situation just for the United States. It's a problem currently in the entire Western world, and one of the other things we might want to do is not just talk more to the people in our other disciplines near to us, but talk to historians in other countries whose situation is infinitely worse than ours and promises a future that could be even more problematic than the one that we're currently bemoaning. Thank you.